Hey everybody, welcome back to Electric Cafe. Today's an album review on the Fixx Shuttered Room, which was their first album in 1982. Fixx is an English band. I think they started out pretty early and 79, I think it was, they started, and didn't have much success through the first few years. In fact, they went through three name changes. They were first known as, I think, Portrait, and then the Fixx with one X, and then they had to change their name to Fixx with two X's. Put out a couple singles, not much attention, which, I think looking back, I wouldn't say I'm a huge Fixx fan at all. There's probably like 10 or 15 songs that I like by them, and probably, I think I have their first three records: The Shuttered Room, Reach the Beach, and then Phantoms. I don't have their fourth album, which is all right too. I think it's called Walkabout, and it came out in '86 and had the hit Secret Separation. But the funny thing about the Fixx is, well, not funny, but is they're a good example of, not to be harsh to Fixx fans, but maybe a band that was sort of looking for a sound and sort of trying to figure out who they were, and you can kind of hear a lot on this particular album. The direction probably could have been a little bit better, and there's they're trying, maybe, it's okay to try different things and stuff like that, but then at the same time, I think you want to be like true to what you want to do. You know what I mean? Because I think even at the time, and then looking back, like, some of the Fixx, like, like some of the songs really tried too hard, and I don't know if they really had the proper direction or maybe producer or anything to really kind of say what they were good at, and or and that's obviously a very biased opinion, but I tend to like their moodier stuff, and when there's in the slower kind of groove, a good balance of rock and electronic they do. Their musicians are good. Cy Kieran has an interesting voice, and he sings some songs like really, really good, and kind of carries the song, the uniqueness in his voice. But like the faster songs and then the poppier songs just like don't work for me most of the time, and I feel like because they had such a big hit with One Thing Leads to Another right after this album, it really kind of changed their, probably influenced them a lot and pressured to write a hit and write popular music and be that. I mean, I think One Thing Leads to Another went to like number four or something. So we're talking about a top five song. So you can imagine the pressure, of their label and the industry to sort of have more hits. And that's how it was in those early 80 days and those early, I mean, a lot of the 80s are like that. And to survive the 80s for a synth pop band and many bands without having a cult following was nearly impossible. Like, you think of all the bands that made it and are, huge still and really important for what they did. They stayed true to, their, they stayed true to, their image, or, they weren't, not like the Fixx were putting themselves on the cover. I mean, their albums are actually pretty abstract, and I'm sure that probably upset them to the point where Walkabout sort of had them on the cover. But I mean, it's really hard to survive the '80s, and because the '80s is very timeless. In a way, it's timeless, but also it kind of could trap you in the '80s. I mean, there's a lot of sounds and bands and styles that never made it out of the '80s. You think of like hair metal had a really difficult time. Uh, a lot of synth pop, really had a hard time. And then pop music, like Phil Collins, or freestyle music was popular for a while. New Jack Swing, for example, that was kind of a little bit more in the '90s. But yeah, there's a lot of disco is a perfect example. That was really hard to after the '70s. To really kind of keep continuing, and it obviously in a lot of ways it turned into house music, and but so disco really never died to the people that think it did, but it changed his name and became house music. But it's interesting because they were really talented and a really unique voice, and if it's just like a band that would have had a little bit different direction, I think a little bit more better producing and sort of maybe a bit more selfish, and maybe, I mean, whatever they wanted to do music style, I'm sure they did, but I'm sure they felt like on this particular album they're definitely trying a lot of things, and not as many things as, but just in general they tried a lot of things, and I get it, but they're trying to be varied at the same time. But like, there's some, when you rank albums and you rate songs and stuff like that, you can really kind of see, like, man, if this album, this band would have had possibly a better engineer or a better producer, or sometimes a producer. Sometimes they was no producer. Like, I was listening to an album recently that had like no producer, and when you don't have somebody to buffer it against, and to give you ideas, and direct you in some way, and have a second opinion, you can make some mistakes. But listening to somebody else, you can make some mistakes too. But I don't think it hurts to bounce it off somebody who's experienced. Somebody who's got a lot of opinions. I think in many ways, like a band like Simple Minds, when they went through like Steve Lillywhite, and I mean their music kind of blossomed in a way that I don't think they could have got there unless somebody told them, like, that whatever they told them. But what I mean, like, just kind of, they matured also. But I mean, you get what I'm trying to say. It's just, there's nothing wrong with having a second opinion. But let's get into the Fixx Shuttered Room reaction, or is it review and scoring? So yeah, this album came out in 1982, or was it 83? I think it was 82. The first track, I Found You. It's kind of atmospheric. It's got a good start, good guitar, good mix of electronic and rock. It's kind of interesting that this I mean, this kind of gives an example. This kind of has like a ska rhythm to it, and it's the only song that really has a ska sort of rhythm in it, and which is, really kind of throws you off when you start the album. And that's just an example of sometimes the trying things, or what are they inspired by? You can imagine how big ska was in England in 1982 with like the Police and Madness and the Specials. I mean, the ska was huge in like 79 to 82, and even the Clash and stuff like that. So I mean, I can see why they were inspired by it, but does it work for them? I don't know. That's kind of, I have it like an okay song. I got it 1.5 stars, so it's in between okay and good. It's not bad. I do like the atmospheric, and it's a good balance of electronic and rock. It just doesn't really, I don't know if it really doesn't have the chorus, doesn't really go anywhere, and it's a lot of, I won't say a lot, but there's Fixer, the Fixx have some weak, sometimes they have some weak choruses, and usually the verses are where he shines when he sings vocally, and when he sings vocally, how else is he gonna sing? When he sings, that's kind of it. Kind of allows him to flow and ebb and stuff like that, and hit some different, unique notes and things like that. When it goes to chorus, it feels like he has to like nail the song and sort of bring a pops, and a lot of times it's just like the word of the name of the song. Like later in the album, I think it was like Cameras in Paris, which is a really weak song on the album. He just says Cameras in Paris, and it's just like okay, like, that wasn't much of a chorus. Track number 2, Some People. Sai sings it really interesting. It's a little bit better. The bridge is better. Can't really point anything I really like or that I dislike, except it's fairly straightforward. But I do like it better than the other song. But it's still not good for me. I got it 1.75 stars. Track 3, Stand or Fall. This is a kind of a classic song for them. Uh, Guitar, tempo, keyboard, love the way it's sung. The chorus is great. The keyboard and the riff is like a perfect blend, and then it has sort of the way it fades out is perfect. And this is a really classic song, and it's definitely one of my favorite Fixx songs, Stand or Fall. I got it 4 stars. Just an excellent song. Track number 4, The Strain. The chorus is a little better here than the first 2 tracks. It's more memorable of a song for sure. I got that much to say. So I think it's good. I got it 2 1/4 songs, so it's certainly a lot better than the first 2 songs, but still not you know still not on the higher side of good, let alone just pretty good. Um, so Red Skies is track number 5. Guitar riffs are strong. Again, Sai sings it really well. It's got a nice hook. The keyboard is nice. It's got a better pacing. The keyboard at the end is really cool. Um, yeah, I got it 1/4 star. I thought I would rate it a little bit higher, but I do like Stand or Fall better than Red Skies, and Red Skies has a little bit of a cheesiness to it, like in the chorus and things like that. But it's still a very good song. I got 3 1/4 stars, and it's my second favorite song on the album. And then you have Lost Plains. This is a good example of the band's confusion on what they want to be. The background vocals aren't good at all. It's not good. The chorus kind of saves it actually on this one. I have it okay, 1 1/4 stars. And then Cameras in Paris. This one's moody, which is a bonus. The bridge isn't bad. The chorus is okay. A little cheesy. I feel like I really don't like the chorus. And I put it as okay, but I felt like maybe I need to change that too. But I definitely had the score of the song pretty low. I got 1 star at being okay, and I feel pretty fair about that. Um, Track number 8 is a lot better. It's called "I Live." It's one of the longer songs. Kind of, I wouldn't say it's a ballad or anything like that, but it's a good song. It does sound like Secret Separation if you're a big Fixx fan. I Live and Secret Separation sort of has the same kind of pace, and the same kind of like feel like it's going to go into the same hook. They kind of find their sound here in this particular song, I feel like, though, and it kind of opens up a little bit, and you actually feel like they're comfortable and they're not trying too hard. And I got it 2 1/2 stars. It's right between good and very good. And then you have the title track. Boy, not a good song. Nothing special here at all. I couldn't point out anything that I liked about the song. And for it to be the title song of the album is alarming. It's trying too hard. It's it's not good. It's short. It's barely 3 minutes. I don't know. I don't yeah I don't not a good track. Track 10. Thankfully, it ends fairly good. The Fool, it's called. It kind of sounds like Ultravox in a way, like Mr. X. If you know Mr. X off Vienna's album, it sounds like Agent X, or is that on Project X, or is it Agent X? I always forget the name of the song. But it sort of has like that kind of moodiness, and the electronics are better. So the sounds are pretty good. I got it 2 1/2 stars. It's right in between good and very good. So when I look at the overall of the album, a few classics, Stand or Fall and Red Skies. I heard those on the radios all the time when I was a kid. When this came out, and when I was 6 or 7 years old, I was. It's funny to say that I was huge into electronic music when I was 6 or 7 years old, but I was. And I can remember Red Skies, and I can remember the videos and Stand or Fall. I remember them playing on TV, and I really liked Stand or Fall. Still do. It's an okay mix of rock and keyboard as an album. It's there is again some mix on where it's going to go on what they're trying to do. Psy has a unique voice. I think that's a good thing about the band. A good thing about this album. Certainly some good lyrics. They have kind of a um, kind of European look at like at government and social situations and things like that and stuff. I don't get too much in the lyrics, but from what I gather, it's they seem fairly intelligent. Nothing certainly cheesy, and it seems pretty introspective. So that's cool. Nothing alarmingly cheesy or um, kind of or cheesy or very kind of sappy. It's a decent debut all in all. Just I mean, 1982 was a really tough year for albums. Keyboard bands are popping up, and some of them, what I mean, they might have a hit or two, but some of the albums aren't. They aren't that good as a full album, anyways. And some of them learned, and some of them didn't. You think of like Depeche Mode's probably weakest album is in '82. With a broken frame, right? So it's an interesting time that particular year. Disco's dying down. You didn't really know how to use electronics in a pop dance way, right? Some of the sounds were really dark. Do you use those? Do you go with them, or are they super poppy, or do you layer them more? There's certainly a lack of atmosphere. Do you go full electronic? Do you keep rock in there? Do you keep a drummer, even though you could do a easy beat machine? The Lin drum came out, I think, in '82. Rolling keyboards are starting to get less expensive, right? People were starting to have a lot more keyboards, and they're kind of making their way into pop music, and people don't really know how to use them into their pop music. And it's interesting how some bands go full board and some go half, and some kind of have a good balance, and some of them don't let it interfere with what they want to do. Some just use it as what it is. Like I think of like Ultravox did a good job of that. Fixx did a fairly good job with that too. With the sounds, and didn't go necessarily overboard. It's just that I think the direction of their songs are maybe just a little lost. Maybe they don't feel confident enough to go with what they feel like they should do. And I'm not saying just you do one sound and you don't do it all, but there's really no ballad on this album. Like I think of like Shuttered Room. I think has Outside. Or does that Reach the Beach? Like Outside's a really good song, and that's kind of a ballad. It's actually one of probably my most favorite, a slower song that they do, and yeah, just there's really no ballad in here, and really no slow song, and really no super atmospheric song, But the sound of the album is pretty good. What else? Kind of like what I was saying earlier. Their moody is better than their pop rock side. Like if they can stay in a certain kind of slower range, like Standard Fall is just. I mean, it works. It's just a little slower. It's got some atmosphere. Psy can sing a little bit. It's got some guitar riffs. Good chorus. And I just feel like maybe they're running out of ideas too in this early time as well, which is strange because you figure, even though they're young, this is by the time this came out, they're already in their third or fourth year playing, and to put out an album that's fairly decent, but it's kind of lacking on depth. I wouldn't say it's shocking, but it kind of, you know, But then I'm saying that, and they reach their height with "Reach the Beach," right, which is their best album. So in a way, they did kind of find their sound. And then probably with that album, then like I said earlier, they kind of maybe lost their way to the pressures of making popular music. I don't know, needing hits. The bad about this album, so I've said a lot about it, but the direction of the band's sound, maybe they don't know their sound yet. Trying a lot of things work, some work, some don't. I think earlier, like I said, yeah, I already said that about the one thing or another. But yeah, it's hard to survive the '80s without a cult following. Of a sound and an image and not just being like a synth pop band. Like a Duran Duran uh, wannabe. Not like Fixx is a Duran Duran wannabe at all, but you know what I mean. Like that's how it's looked in the media. I mean, they had what, four top 20 songs in America. Maybe like it's interesting because they're an English band. Their first two albums sort of hit like in the 50s, and then their first two albums sort of got bigger in America, and then their next two albums were the biggest. Were those two albums, Phantoms and Secrets and Walkabout, didn't even chart in English band. That's just like shocking that an English band as popular as the Fixx didn't even chart like with their most popular albums. Well, two of their three most popular albums. It's just shocking to me, anyways. I mean, I just how many how can you? I mean, there's two songs made in the 50s, and that's not like it's not like they were a top 10 song in America. But one thing leads to another. I think it was one of the two in the 50s, and I think it was, unless it was Actually, it was Red Skies and Stand or Fall from this album. So one thing leads to another. It didn't even make the charts over there, and it's the English band. That just seems really odd. And then I'd be curious to ask them if all this kind of ties into affecting the direction of their music, because that's just like, how could a track be number four in America and it doesn't even chart in England and you're an English band? Like, that makes no sense. In the 80s, too, like in 1983 when there's a lot less competition, like I can see how that could happen now, but in 1983, like, usually, I mean, a lot of times the English in America, what was a hit? Like, there's number one hits in England where you're like American people never even heard of. Like, there's some strange ones in the early '80s, like "Shut Up in the Face" or "Shut Up Your Face." Like that was played a little bit in America, but that was like a number one hit. I think that's the track that stopped Vienna from being number one, if I'm not mistaken, or maybe it was another. But there were some really bad songs that hit number one in UK, and Germany was also a place that had some really awful songs in like 1981, 82, 83 that were sort of like, like who are these people? Like this is so bad. It sounds like Humperdinck, Engelbert Humperdinck. It sounds worse than him, and I mean, it's just really bad stuff. Where you're like, this is number one in Germany. So it makes sense in some ways that, but this is a synth pop band at the beginning of synth pop when like Duran Duran is huge and Human League is huge and Eurythmics are huge. 82, 83 was huge for those bands. I don't understand how one thing leads to another didn't make that. I mean, it's just shocking, that it was that big. It was almost like they didn't like it because Americans liked it. Really strange. Um, but yeah, that's my overview on the album. And then kind of looking at the scores. So I add up the stars for all 10 songs. It's right at 20 stars, and then 20 divided by 10 is a 2.0 flat. And on my song rating, 2.0 flat is a okay album, right at the bottom of okay. And on my album view, because I have it like 10 points higher, I have my album score is more geared towards positive, so I have it bumped up like 10 points, and okay starts at 50. Um, I gave it on the low side of 50 and a 52 out of 100. So 52 out of 100 for the album. Feel pretty good about that. I mean, it's not again, it's an okay album. There's a couple good songs on here, some songs that are trying too hard, but there's a couple surprising songs. I really like The Fool and I Live, and The Strain's not bad, but Stand or Fall and the Red Skies are really the only mandatory reasons to come back to this album. This is the kind of album you buy if you're really into the Reach the Beach, and or you like Shutter Room or Walkabout, and you're like, okay, I want to get their first album. That's probably the reason why to get this. Other than that, maybe not too much to get it. I'm sure there's some people that like this album a lot better than I do that would rate it higher, but I just have it as a low okay song. Nothing fantastic, nothing great, nothing good, nothing below par. This kind of is what it is. An okay album. Yeah, so that's my review on the Fixx's 1982 album, Shuttered Room. I appreciate you watching. Have a good day.